Hey, good morning, it's Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Wanted to comment on an article that I read a couple of weeks ago in the Vancouver province. Now, I'm fortunate enough in our brokerage, McDonald Westmar, we've got a pretty large brokerage, and every day we have a media girl that works in our office that every day to the realtors in McDonald Westmar, we get a daily email on the new listings that have been put out by agents in my brokerage, solds, price changes, and then we have a little media section there where this girl posts all the articles for that day in the Globe and Mail, the Vancouver Sun, various blogs that pertain to real estate. So all these articles every day come across my desk 5 days a week. Now, I don't read all of them. I'll skim through some of the articles a couple of times a week. I'll save them and sometimes use them for one of my video blogs here. Now, this one though, really ruffled my feathers a little bit, and it's not the first time this has happened. I did a blog on this about 6 months ago for one that I saw in the Globe and Mail about Vancouver, East Side Vancouver resident getting rich sitting on his assets. And it was a story about a guy in East Vancouver who had bought a house many years ago, back in the early 80s. And the value of his home went from $1 million to 1.4. So he made $400,000 in a year by doing nothing, sitting on his assets, and how somehow he wasn't entitled to those gains. So this was a similar article in the province. It was a story on a land assembly in East Vancouver, Broadway, and Nanaimo area. And I'll give you all the details, but it was a row of houses, what we call a land assembly, that the realtor had listed in hopes to sell the entire 8 or 9 homes to a developer or an investor who would then later rezone it for multifamily, for townhomes or a 3 or 4 story wood frame condo complex. So they're speculative for sure, but they're quite popular, as we all know. You could drive down Granville Street, or if you were driving down Oak or Canby Street over the last few years, you've seen these land assemblies. I've done several of them. They're fantastic. I love doing land assemblies because my clients are always over the moon with them. We're going to get them probably double, in most cases, what their house is worth if they were to sell it, if they would have sold it prior to the land assembly. But this was another one of those articles that tried to create animosity. Somehow these sellers weren't entitled to this windfall if they end up selling this land assembly. And I'm telling you, this is it bothers me. And I don't know if the shoe's on the other foot. And this author, and she also interviewed, I won't name her, a woman at the Vancouver City Hall. If it was their home, I'm sure they would be over the moon about striking it rich with this land assembly as well. The thing that bothers me is, I don't understand why now they're not entitled to these gains. I mean, these people, many of them in the story here, had owned these homes for 20 and 30 years. So they bought that home, and I can tell you, let's say they bought it back in 1985. I'm quite certain whenever you buy a property, it doesn't matter if the market's up or down, their friends were telling them you're crazy, you're overpaying for the house, you're paying 14% mortgage rate on it, you're nuts. But they didn't listen. They bought the home, they needed shelter, they needed a place for their family. They paid that mortgage every month when it was 14% interest and when it was down to 2.5% interest. But they stuck through with it. They knew that the long-term benefits of homeownership. There was a lot of down years in there where the market took a dive. We had one in 2008. We had another one in 2012 where the price of their home might have dropped $100,000. But where were the articles then when the price of their home went down? Yet somehow now, when they're getting this windfall where the price of their home might be worth 1.2, but now that they're in this land assembly, they're going to get 2.5 for the house. It's great. I love to hear these stories. Now, in the article too, the author was saying, well, gee, anyone that bought this land assembly is a sucker. She actually said that, saying that, she went to Vancouver City Hall, and currently, those properties are not zoned for multifamily. So someone could not buy those lots and build a condo complex on it next month. Well, no kidding. But listen, those homes, if she would have done a little more research on it, are up for rezoning. It might take a year, it might take a year and a half or 2 years before it all gets put through. But geez, it's about time the city got off their ass and started rezoning a ton of this stuff for multifamily. We all know we've got a housing shortage. You know, all these major arterial roads are going to be rezoned for multifamily, especially the ones along SkyTran, along Canby. They already have. So I don't know what she's talking about. You know, somehow the buyer of this is a sucker because he's paying $2.5 million per house and can't build anything on it. Well, yeah, he can't build anything on it right now, but trust me, someone who's dropping $20 million for an entire block of detached homes, I think they're going to be pretty smart. I think they're going to do their due diligence. The realtor that's representing them is going to do his or her due diligence, and they're going to be pretty much assured that sure, we're going to secure these homes now, these lots, and we'll move forward with the steps to get it rezoned. But to my young viewers, and there's been a bunch of these articles, you know, complaining about people with these windfalls, not only in land assemblies, but just people who have bought a home in Kitsilano. There was one about a year ago that, you know, bought a house in Kitsilano 10 years ago and has made $1 million on it. You know, next time you see these articles, you know, don't look at it from the point of view, well, gee, this isn't the way to do it. This guy isn't entitled to those gains. In my opinion, this is how it works. This is what real estate will do when you buy it and hold it. I was always brought up both in the stock when I was buying stocks and when I was buying real estate when I started out, that good things happen when you're in the market, and good things happen when you buy a Vancouver piece of real estate or buy a share of Apple or Johnson & Johnson and then just tuck it away and leave it. Good things will happen over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I can guarantee it. Now, one final thing I'll say. The other thing I'm suggesting young people do is rather than creating some sort of animosity towards these people, look for ways that how can I get in on this windfall? And now it's going to be difficult for young people to buy $1.5 million house, and who knows if it'll ever be rezoned down the road for a land assembly. But, you know, there's some interesting things playing out right now in the older condo market. And again, I've done blogs about this in the past. A year ago, the British Columbia Strata Act was changed to dissolve a strata. Now, in the past, for a developer to come in and buy out an entire strata, you needed a unanimous vote, which was almost impossible. Very few stratas were ever sold out completely over the last 20 or 25 years. It's impossible to get a 100% vote. That law was changed a year ago. You now only need an 80% vote to approve the dissolving of a strata. So I read maybe 2 months ago that there's an older condo building, I think it was 40 or 50 units in Mount Pleasant, that was just sold to a developer. You know, this is what I call the white knight scenario, and it's something that people young buyers should be aware of. You know, there's some good opportunity in some of these older stratas that are 40, 50, 60 years old, wood frame, low density, in good neighborhoods on quiet streets. It's what I call the white knight scenario, where a developer will come in and say, listen, I want to buy out the whole strata. I'm going to get some more density from the city, which they should be getting. I'm going to build a 15-story concrete on this lot, and I will give you 100, 200%, 300% of your assessed value. I think on this one in Mount Pleasant, it was about 100% increase over their assessed value. So of course, they took a vote. I think it was something like 90% voted to sell to the developer. Now, when those happen, you still need to get a court approval to finalize the deal, which they're moving forward with on now. So that might be one of the first stratas in a long time, one of the first that I know of, that could get sold out to a developer here, and these people are going to get a nice windfall. And these weren't expensive units. These were old. This is an older wood frame building. One bedrooms were selling in the low threes, I think, in there. They're going to get a substantial increase on that. So, hey, there you go. For my young viewers, that's something to think about. I've got a couple of complexes in Richmond that I do a fair bit of work in that are sitting, one of them is sitting on about 14 acres of land, low density, football fields type yards on these common area. It's only 40 years old. They've done some work on the complex now, so it's not going to be sold in the next 5 or 10 years, but who knows? 15 years, 20 years down the road, it wouldn't surprise me at all if a white knight comes in there and wants to buy that whole thing out at a large premium to what the property is worth if you sold it on its own. So something to think about. There's always opportunities out there in Vancouver real estate. You just have to know where to look. And don't let these articles, begrudging somebody of a land assembly deal or buying that Kitsilano home and selling it for $1 million more than he paid for it. Listen, on the opposite side too, I know it's tough in Vancouver here to get ahead and buy a place. So I'm not, some unsympathetic realtor here, but there are opportunities there no matter what price bracket you're in. So hey, think about maybe getting into an older condo in Mount Pleasant that might have potential down the road for a white knight scenario where a developer buys the whole thing out. It might not happen, but it's nice to have that option possibly happen down the road. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.